It seems like everywhere you turn these days, AI is popping up, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's incredible how quickly it's becoming part of the fabric of our
I
lives.
mean, think about it. It's in the apps we use every day. It's driving the evolution of industries like healthcare and finance. It's even influencing how cities are designed and managed.
You're spot on. It's really quite remarkable. AI is becoming so deeply integrated that it's almost starting to feel like electricity, something we just expect to be there working in the background.
But honestly, along with all the excitement and optimism, I'm picking up on a real sense of uneasiness, maybe even fear, among a lot of people
Yep.
about where all of this is headed.
I think that's a really valid observation, and that's precisely why we're dedicating this deep dive to exploring the potential downsides of AI. We're going beyond the hype and the headlines to really dig into the legitimate concerns that people are raising.
Exactly. We're not here to scaremonger or sensationalize. Our goal is to give our listeners a clear and informed understanding of the potential risks and challenges so they can form their own conclusions.
Precisely. And we've done a deep dive into some fascinating research on this, really delving into the potential impacts of AI on a whole range of areas, from the job market and economic inequality to social dynamics, ethical dilemmas, and even national security.
Yeah, and I think it's important to stress that these aren't just abstract anxieties. These are real, tangible concerns backed by evidence and expert analysis.
Absolutely. We're talking about potential shifts that could reshape the very fabric of society as we know it.
So let's start with something that's probably top of mind for a lot of people listening.
Yeah.
Jobs. When you hear about AI automating tasks across so many industries, it's natural to wonder what that means for your own career. Some of the early predictions we saw about AI's impact on jobs were pretty dire, weren't they?
They were quite stark, yeah. Some initial forecasts suggested that mass unemployment was on the horizon, with millions of jobs potentially being wiped out as robots and algorithms took over.
Like entire professions just vanishing, right?
Yeah. Exactly. But as researchers have delved deeper, it's become clear that the picture is much more nuanced than simply robots replacing humans in a one-to-one fashion.
So are you saying it's not going to be as bad as those doomsday scenarios?
It's not necessarily about AI eliminating jobs entirely. It's more about transforming how work gets done, reshaping job roles, and perhaps even creating new ones. There will undoubtedly be some level of displacement, but it's likely to be a more gradual and evolving process.
Okay, so it's less about mass unemployment and more about adaptation and maybe some career shifts for people in certain fields.
Right. In many cases, AI is likely to augment human capabilities rather than outright replacing them. For instance, it can take over repetitive or data-heavy tasks, freeing up humans to focus on more creative, strategic, and interpersonal aspects of their work.
So it's about humans and AI working together.
Exactly. But that doesn't mean every sector will be affected equally. There are definitely some industries where AI is poised to have a more disruptive impact on employment.
Okay, so where are we seeing that happening? What are the industries that are likely to see the biggest shifts?
Well, think about customer service, for instance.
Right, with all the AI-powered chatbots popping up.
Exactly. Those chatbots are becoming increasingly sophisticated thanks to advances in natural language processing, or NLP, which basically allows them to understand and respond to human language. So we're likely to see fewer human agents needed for those frontline, routine customer inquiries.
And that's just one example, right? What about other industries?
The financial sector, like banking and insurance, is also seeing a huge wave of AI adoption. It's being used to automate all sorts of back-office operations, streamline claims processing, even detect and prevent fraud.
So more efficiency and potentially fewer jobs needed in those areas, right?
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure, but there will definitely be some changes in those fields. And we can't forget about transportation.
Ah, yes. Self-driving cars and trucks.
Exactly. As autonomous driving technology matures, that could have a significant impact on the demand for human drivers, both for personal vehicles and in commercial trucking.
So it sounds like it's not just entire industries at risk, but also specific roles within those industries that could be facing automation.
Yes, you're exactly right. Let's take a look at some examples. Let's say you're a computer programmer. AI is already capable of automating some coding tasks, like generating basic code snippets or even identifying bugs. But the more complex aspects of programming, the innovative, creative, and problem-solving parts, those still require human expertise. So while the role of a programmer might evolve, it's unlikely to disappear entirely.
I see. It's about adapting to the changing landscape. What about other roles?
Research analysts might find that AI takes over some of the data collection and preliminary analysis, allowing them to focus on deeper insights and strategic recommendations. Paralegals could see routine document review processes automated, freeing them up for more complex legal tasks.
And those AI-powered robots we keep hearing about.
Yeah, they're already playing a big role in manufacturing and logistics, handling repetitive tasks, heavy lifting, and even precision assembly. It's about optimizing those processes and improving efficiency.
So when we talk about the sheer scale of these potential shifts in the job market, what kind of numbers are we looking at? I mean, what are the experts saying?
Well, the estimates do vary depending on the specific methodology and assumptions used, but some of the figures are pretty eye-opening. Goldman Sachs, for instance, estimated that something like 300 million full-time equivalent jobs globally could be affected by AI-driven automation by 2030.
Wow, that's a huge number.
It is. And the World Economic Forum projected that roughly 83 million jobs could be lost in the next 5 years alone.
But didn't you say earlier that it's not all doom and gloom?
Right. It's important to remember that these projections often focus on the potential for job displacement, but they don't always fully account for the new jobs that will emerge as a result of AI adoption.
Okay, so it's not just a one-way street. What are some of the new types of jobs we're seeing?
The development and implementation of AI technologies is creating a demand for all sorts of new roles. For example, we need people who can build and refine the algorithms that power AI systems, people who can develop those human-like conversational interfaces for chatbots, and people who can design and deploy those robots we talked about.
So what are those specific job titles? I mean, what should people be looking out for if they're interested in this field?
We're talking about machine learning engineers, natural language processing specialists, robotics engineers, AI ethicists, the list goes on. It's a really rapidly evolving field.
And the skill set required for these new jobs, it's not just about coding and technical expertise, right?
You're right, it's much broader than that. Of course, technical skills are crucial. Things like data analysis, proficiency in programming languages, knowledge of cloud computing. But equally important are those uniquely human skills.
What do you mean by that?
Things like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, communication, the ability to collaborate effectively, emotional intelligence. These are the skills that will become even more valuable as AI takes over more routine and repetitive tasks.
So it's not just about hard skills, but also soft skills.
Exactly. And McKinsey, for example, has projected that somewhere between 20 and 50 million new jobs could be created globally by 2030, specifically because of AI.
So even though some jobs might be lost, there's also potential for significant job creation in other areas.
Absolutely. And the World Economic Forum actually projects a net increase of about 78 million jobs by 2030, taking into account both job creation and displacement.
But they also issued a bit of a warning, didn't they?
Right. They emphasize that nearly 40% of existing skill sets will likely be outdated by 2030. So upskilling and reskilling are going to be absolutely crucial for workers to stay relevant in this rapidly changing job market.
That makes sense. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about another major concern surrounding AI, and that's the issue of bias.
Yeah, this is a big one. The worry is that AI systems, because they're trained on data, can inadvertently perpetuate and even amplify existing societal biases.
We can see how that would happen. If the data itself is biased, the AI is going to learn those biases, right?
Precisely. If you train an AI on historical hiring data that reflects gender or racial biases, for example, it's going to learn those patterns and potentially replicate them in its decisions.
And we've seen examples of this happening in the real world, haven't we?
We have, unfortunately. Remember that Amazon recruiting tool? It was scrapped because it was found to be unfairly favoring male candidates.
Right, because it was trained on data that predominantly featured men in certain technical roles.
Exactly. And that's just one example. AI bias can creep into all sorts of areas, like loan applications, risk assessment tools used in the criminal justice system, even facial recognition technology.
So it's not just a theoretical problem, it's actually manifesting in real-world applications.
Right. And it can have serious consequences, reinforcing existing inequalities and leading to unfair or discriminatory outcomes.
This brings us to another big concern, and that's privacy. AI systems rely so heavily on data, it's natural to wonder how our personal information is being collected, used, and protected.
Absolutely. AI thrives on data. It needs vast amounts of it to learn, to make predictions, to provide insights. And the ways in which that data is collected aren't always transparent.
I mean, we all know that companies track our online behavior. But is AI taking this to a whole new level?
It has the potential to do so. Think about it. AI can analyze not just what we click on or what we buy, but also our browsing history, our location data, our social media interactions, even our facial expressions and voice patterns.
That sounds a bit creepy, to be honest.
It can be, yeah. And the security risks are huge. All of that data becomes a potential target for hackers and cybercriminals. Plus, there's the risk of unintentional data leaks and misuse by the companies collecting the data.
So it's not just about the data itself, but also how securely it's being stored and managed.
Right. And the more data we feed into these systems, the more powerful they become. But it also raises profound questions about what it means to have privacy in a world where AI is constantly analyzing and interpreting our every move.
And that brings us to a whole other level of concern. AI in the military. The idea of autonomous weapon systems, machines that can make life and death decisions without human intervention, is a pretty chilling thought.
It's definitely one of the most ethically fraught areas of AI development. Governments around the world are investing heavily in this technology, seeing it as the future of warfare.
But isn't there a huge risk in handing over the power to kill to machines?
Absolutely. Critics argue that machines lack the moral judgment, the empathy, the understanding of context that humans bring to these complex situations. There's also the question of accountability. If an autonomous weapon makes a mistake, who's responsible?
And the potential for these weapons to escalate conflicts or fall into the wrong hands, it's terrifying.
Right. It raises all sorts of nightmare scenarios. And once you unleash this technology, it's hard to put it back in the box.
This leads us to what is perhaps the most profound and unsettling concern of all, the possibility of superintelligence. I mean, what happens if we create AI that surpasses human intelligence in every way?
This is where we start to grapple with questions that border on science fiction, but they're becoming increasingly relevant. There's this concept of an intelligence explosion, where a superintelligent AI could rapidly design even more intelligent versions of itself, leaving humans far behind.
And if that happens, how do we ensure that its goals align with our own? I mean, how do we control something that's smarter than us?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There's no easy answer, and many experts believe this is the single biggest challenge facing humanity when it comes to AI.
I mean, even if we program it with good intentions, what's to stop it from interpreting those intentions in ways that we never anticipated, potentially leading to unintended consequences?
That's the fear, right? That we could inadvertently create something that ultimately poses an existential threat to humanity. It's a sobering thought. But it's also why so many researchers are focused on AI safety and alignment, trying to figure out how to build these systems in a way that ensures they remain beneficial and controllable.
Now, let's talk about another challenge that's more immediate and very much in the headlines these days, and that's AI's role in the spread of misinformation.
Oh yeah, this is a huge problem. With the rise of generative AI, we now have tools that can create incredibly realistic fake text, images, audio, videos, you name it. And it's becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish between what's real and what's fabricated.
I mean, we've all seen those deepfake videos of politicians saying things they never actually said. It's
Yeah.
incredibly convincing.
Exactly. And it's not just deepfakes. AI can be used to generate fake news articles, social media posts, even entire websites designed to deceive.
So it's like a weaponization of information, right?
You could say that, yeah. It undermines trust in institutions, fuels political polarization, and can even incite violence. It's a real threat to democracy and social cohesion.
And it's not just a problem for individuals trying to discern what's true. It's also a huge challenge for platforms and governments trying to combat the spread of misinformation.
Absolutely. It's like a constant arms race, with the technology constantly evolving and becoming more sophisticated.
Speaking of evolution, there's another concern that's been raised, and that's the potential impact of AI on our own cognitive abilities. Some experts worry that as we rely more and more on AI to do our thinking for us, we might actually become less intelligent.
Yeah, it's this idea of cognitive offloading. We're so used to having AI assistants answer our questions, make recommendations, even write our emails, that we might start to lose those critical thinking skills, that ability to solve problems independently.
It's like our brains are getting lazy, right?
In a sense, yeah. And it's not just about losing mental agility, it's also about becoming overly reliant on AI, potentially trusting it blindly without questioning its outputs or considering alternative perspectives.
So how do we strike a balance? How do we embrace the benefits of AI without becoming overly dependent on it.
It's about being mindful of how we use these tools, consciously engaging our own critical thinking skills, and making sure we're not just passively accepting whatever AI tells us. It's also about education, teaching people from a young age how to evaluate information critically, how to identify biases, how to think for themselves.
And finally, let's touch on the broader ethical landscape surrounding AI. It seems like every time a new application emerges, it raises a whole host of ethical questions.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about things like the use of AI in healthcare, the ethical dilemmas surrounding self-driving cars, the potential for AI to be used for surveillance and social control, the implications for privacy, fairness, transparency. It's a minefield.
I mean, take healthcare, for example. AI has the potential to revolutionize diagnosis and treatment, but what about the risk of bias in those algorithms? Or the potential for AI to dehumanize the doctor-patient relationship?
Exactly. And with self-driving cars, how do you program a machine to make those split-second decisions in life or death situations? Whose life should it prioritize in an unavoidable accident?
And then there's the whole issue of AI being used for things like social scoring, where people are constantly monitored and evaluated by algorithms. That sounds straight out of a dystopian novel.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope for sure. And it underscores the need for careful ethical consideration and robust regulation as these technologies become more powerful and pervasive.
So to wrap it all up, it's clear that the concerns about AI are very real, and they touch on some of the most fundamental aspects of what it means to be human.
I couldn't agree more. We're not talking about some distant hypothetical future. We're talking about issues that are already shaping our lives today, and they're only going to become more pressing in the years to come.
And it's going to take a collective effort to navigate these challenges. We need researchers, policymakers, industry leaders, and everyday citizens to be actively involved in this conversation.
Absolutely. The future of AI isn't predetermined. It depends on the choices we make now. And if we approach it thoughtfully and ethically, we can hopefully harness its power for good while mitigating the risks.
Well, food for thought for sure.
Yeah.
And I'll bet everyone listening is now looking around and wondering where AI is already at work in their lives. Thanks for joining us today, everyone.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.